To be honest, this might have been a mistake. Hello everyone, my name is Ethan and this is Ethan's Guitar Room. You can find me here on YouTube or over on Instagram and TikTok. I will have those linked down below. And the topic for today is relic guitars. Relic guitars are nothing new. Fender has been making road-worn guitars for many years. You've got the EVH Frankenstrats, Charvel. All kinds of brands have relic guitars, and in the last few years, Gibson's Murphy Lab has grown in popularity, and they've refined their processes quite a bit to be able to mass produce these relic guitars. And the idea is to have guitars that look old without needing to play them for 40 years or so. And there are plenty of haters when it comes to this kind of guitar. Some people think it's just ridiculous to take a brand new guitar and damage it and scratch it up on purpose just for the sake of making it look old. But there are other people who would love to own a vintage guitar that has 50 years of playing wear on it and feels nice and worn in. But most of us will never be able to buy a 63 Strat or a 59 Les Paul. And that's where the relic guitars come in. You get something that looks old and in some ways even feels old, but you don't have to pay an arm and a leg to get it. They're typically a bit more expensive than a standard guitar, but they're also typically cheaper than a true vintage guitar. And there are some exceptions to that. If you look at like Murphy Lab, Les Paul Juniors, Les Paul Specials, you can find some vintage 1950s Les Paul Juniors for not much more than the Gibson Murphy Lab guitars are today. And when it comes to Gibson's Murphy Lab, they have a proprietary aging technique that they use to mass produce these instruments that look vintage. They don't share too much on the process itself, but they do say that it is a natural checking of the nitro finish. And one of the ways to achieve that is by temperature changes. You may even hear people talk about forgetting their guitar in the car overnight in the middle of winter and it gets super cold, and then they bring it inside, open up the case, and they watch the finish check right in front of their eyes. I'm not sure how realistic that is, and I'll get to that in a minute, but you definitely can cause the finish to check by subjecting it to those temperature changes. So it makes sense that leaving it in the cold overnight and then bringing it into heat immediately could possibly cause that. The Murphy Lab also ages the hardware, where they make the knobs look old, the bridge look old, the tuners look old, so they're tarnished and worn. They also damage the surface a bit by using things like a handful of keys. Dropping it on the surface of the guitar just gives you a handful of small dents that you would probably acquire over time. Do me a favor and click the button down below to subscribe, like the video. My analytics show that about 99.9% of you, so pretty much everybody who is watching my videos, is not subscribed. So if you've enjoyed this video, please do me a favor and subscribe. And that brings me to what I did. Before I get into it, my lawyers have suggested that I pause to give you a disclaimer, so please take a second to read this. And with that out of the way, hopefully the kids are out of the room, we can talk about what I did. Now, I live in the north where it gets cold. And I'm not talking like Chicago or New York City cold, I'm talking like Alaska cold. And typically a few times throughout the winter, we'll have temperatures of 15 to 20 below zero and colder for an extended period of time. And knowing that rapid changes in temperature can cause your finish to check and look like a vintage guitar, I decided to give it a try. So I took this poor Les Paul Special and repeatedly put it in the snow, in the cold. I left it there neglected for hours at a time, and then I would bring it back inside and set it in front of a heater, but the finish never checked. That's why I say I'm not sure how realistic the story of leaving a guitar in the car overnight and then bringing it inside could cause that to happen. I was intentionally trying to make that happen, and I would leave the guitar out for several hours sometimes to make sure it was very cold, and when I brought it inside, put it in front of some heat, nothing happened. And I've done this a handful of times the last 2 winters, and I never even got the slightest amount of finish checking. When that failed, I changed my approach and I tried using some compressed air, just this electronics cleaner, canned air. And there's a very important warning on the back that says never to shake or tilt the can during usage. Fun fact, if you ignore that and hold it upside down and spray it, you get a super cold frozen blast of air that I then sprayed directly on the guitar, and that made the finish crack. It's really hard to get pictures of it where the finish checking actually shows up, but I will do my best to put that on the screen. And it worked. I got finish checking all over the front and back of this guitar, up and down the neck, and it looks kind of nice. But that's just the beginning. After that, I took some random bolts, my keychain, and dinged up the front and back and sides of the guitar just to make it look old. And then I took some sandpaper to it and added some of these worn through spots above the strings, like where a pick would be hitting, kind of where your forearm rests, some belt buckle rash on the back, and also on the back of the neck a bit. And I think it turned out okay. I was trying to not overdo it, but I wanted to see how well I could relic it myself. And this didn't affect, playability or anything like that. Maybe even it helped the playability because removing the finish on the back of the neck, it's a little bit less sticky on your hand, so it's easier to slide up and down the neck. And I think it kind of looks okay. Like, it doesn't look horrible in my opinion. Let me know what you think, I guess. Now, is this something that you should do to your guitars? Definitely not. I mean, do whatever you want. Nobody's going to stop you. But it's really hard to do this and make it look good. Like I said, I think this turned out okay, but I can't say that it's better than it was before. In the end, it was just an experiment I wanted to try and see how it would turn out if I did it myself. I'm not embarrassed by it, but I just think it was probably a waste of time. Anyways, that's the story of this guitar. Let me know what you think about Relic guitars. Are they cool? Are they dumb? Does mine look good or bad? Let me know. Be honest. And thanks for watching all the way to the end. Like I said at the beginning, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, linked below, Ethan's Guitar Room. And do me a favor and subscribe, like the video, and I will see you in the next one.